UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson extends most of the restrictions on daily life aimed at reducing the spread of the coronavirus, but announces a conditional plan to gradually ease them. In a televised address yesterday, Johnson said it would be, quote, madness to relax the lockdown too soon and risk a second spike in deaths. Britain's official coronavirus death toll now stands at more than 32,000, the highest number of fatalities in Europe. Joining me now on Skype to talk more about this is Kevin Turley, UK correspondent for EWTN's National Catholic Register. Kevin, welcome back to the show. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Tracy.
I know today new government guidance was published in a 50-page document entitled Our Plan to Rebuild. One of the suggestions is that people wear face masks in crowded places. However, that won't be enforced by law. What else did Prime Minister Boris Johnson have to say?
Yes, well, you described it as a sort of roadmap back to some sort of normality. It's probably better to describe it as a tentative roadmap back to some sort of reality. Other things that the Prime Minister suggested were that, for example, we can take more exercise, that we can go out as often as we want during the day. Certain sports, for example, golf and tennis and various other exercises, and even sunbathing would be allowed to a certain extent. People could also travel around England, certainly, to beauty spots, take exercise or to the beach, etc. However, the really important aspect of what was said last night, given that the other suggestions were more mitigating the lockdown, was the Prime Minister's suggestion that people who wanted to go back to work should indeed start to go back to work. This has caused probably the biggest kerfuffle at this end, in that unions and opposition parties have rightly said that the Prime Minister's message is a little bit muddled, because at one point he's saying go back to work, but then he's saying that workplaces, all workplaces, have to comply with government regulations around social distancing, which is keeping 2 meters apart. That's roughly 6 feet apart. And most workplaces are just not designed for that. So there's a lot of head scratching as to this is something everybody wants, but how does it actually work?
Well, Kevin, Prime Minister Johnson, who also had COVID-19, as we know, and recovered, said in order to prevent infections and save lives, that life would, quote, be different, at least for the foreseeable future. You mentioned work. What does that mean for places where a lot of people gather, other places like churches?
Well, that's very interesting. The government has given a tentative date of the 4th of July as a date when restaurants, bars, theatres, cinemas, hair salons and places of worship may be able to open if the 5 tests of the government have been met by that stage, and if those places can comply with ongoing social distancing. Just to recap what those 5 tests are, they are basically that the spread of infection is under control, that the NHS is able to cope, that the daily death rate is decreasing, that operational challenges such as PPE have been met, and perhaps the 5th test is the most crucial one, that there is no indication that there will be a second wave of infections. So it's a big ask in those 5 tests before we even get to the point of a place of worship, say a Catholic church, which will have to comply with social distancing regulations. Now, I don't know what it's like with you, Tracy, where you are, but where I am, Sunday worship is a packed affair, lots of large families, small pews. In Britain, we have smaller churches than the United States. Social distancing is going to be a huge challenge for any place of worship.
Kevin, before we wrap this up, I want to talk about Queen Elizabeth II. I know she's in quarantine at Windsor Castle and is expected to stay there for a while, with a good chance that she won't be back at Buckingham Palace this summer. Can you talk about the significance of that?
Yes, well, she's 94, for the ruling monarch, and she's in the top category in terms of risk. She's been socially isolating since the start of this crisis, and the indications are from press reports at the weekend that this will continue indefinitely. I think, given that she's been reigning for 68 years, to have the head of state secluded from the rest of the nation on a semi-permanent basis, if not a permanent basis, it's a kind of a psychological blow to the nation in a sense, and it's a clear indication that things are not as they were, and I'm afraid that they may not be for quite some time to come.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for coming on. We always appreciate your insight. Kevin Turley, UK correspondent for EWTN's National Catholic Register. God bless you, and thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you, Tracy.